Hello and welcome to Buffoon of the Week. It's a show where we scour last week's news and current events in search of people who said or did something so astoundingly ridiculous that they earn a shot to be named the dumbest newsmaker of the week by you, our fans. You see, you get to choose who wins by leaving a comment right below this video, or voting in our polls on social media, or by doing so on our brand new website. It's called Buffoonertheweek.com, and not to brag or anything, but it's pretty awesome. Stop by to find out about buffoons we couldn't feature in this video, alongside some interactive content like polls, quizzes, lists, and a whole lot more if you register. So go to Buffoonertheweek.com. Wait, don't go now. Watch the video first. Last week, you overwhelmingly chose Jerry Nadler as Buffoon of the Week for his out-of-control hearing and asinine behavior. Clearly, his multiple acts of buffoonery in the same week beat any single act that would have went up against him, no matter how significant it may have been. Between last week and the impeachment trial this past winter, Nadler has a real shot at Buffoon of the Year. But Nadler's sure to have some tough competition, mainly because the buffoons keep on coming. You see, we release weekly videos on Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and sometimes we'll even release a bonus video here or there. So if you like what you see and hear in this or any of our other videos, go ahead and smash that thumbs up button, and please subscribe to the show. Oh, and also turn on that notification bell so you never miss a show too. We appreciate you tuning in, but we'd appreciate you even more if you help us grow the show. It's just a small click of a button for you guys, but to us, it means a heck of a lot more. So each week before unveiling our nominees, we acknowledge those other buffoons who really gave it their all, but just didn't make the cut. We gotta give them credit where credit is due, and we do that by making them one of our dishonorable mentions. Alright, so let's get this out of the way immediately. No, Joe Biden is not one of our nominees this week, even though he clearly deserved to be one. But because of our rules, Joe Biden cannot be nominated again because he's already won Buffoon of the Week. Stupid rules. Nonetheless, we can still discuss Biden's buffoonish comments to reporter Errol Bennett, which was the top news story of the week, not only because they were stupid, but they were borderline racist.
Specifically, have you taken a cognitive test?
No, I haven't taken a test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying you, before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say to President Trump, who brags about his tests and makes your mental state an issue for voters?
Well, if he can't figure out the difference between an elephant and a lion, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Did you watch that? Look, come on, man. I know you're trying to goad me, but I mean, I'm so forward looking to have an opportunity to sit with the president or stand with the president in debates. There's going to be plenty of time. And by the way, as I joke with him, you know, I shouldn't say it. I'm going to say something I probably shouldn't say. Anyway, I am very willing to let the American public judge my physical and mental my physical as well as my mental fitness, and to make a judgment about who I am. Yes, and by the way, what you all know, but most people don't know, unlike the African-American community, with notable exceptions, the Latino community is an incredibly diverse community with incredibly different attitudes about different things.
He later apologized for these comments on Twitter, or is it his team that apologized? Is he even capable of using Twitter? Joe Biden may be the only politician to be able to get away with such racially ignorant comments. But is that because he's out of his gourd? Or is it because he is the head of the Democratic ticket? But did you know that Biden wasn't even the dumbest politician of the week? That honor may go to Volney Moristoni, mayor of the southern city of Itajaí in Brazil. Moristoni was widely ridiculed last week after promoting rectal injections of ozone as an excellent coronavirus treatment that he claims would be quick and easy. Oh my God! Of course, Moristoni was a little light on the scientific support for shoving a catheter up one's ass and pumping it with ozone. But hey, details, right? All I can say is, hey Volney, you first, pal. Speaking of dumbass mayors, here's this week's DeBozo Watch. You know, folks, we can't choose between all of DeBozo's buffoonery, so we're just going to run through it all. First is his likely unconstitutional coronavirus checkpoints in search of out-of-state visitors in the name of public safety. Because, you know, people are flocking to the world capital of coronavirus, right? De Blasio doesn't even care about minor details like constitutions or the rule of law. He even admitted that those BLM street paintings the city allowed didn't go through the city's permit process. Because who has time for legal processes anyway, right, Bill? Doing the right thing gets in the way of scoring political points after all. And of course, then there's this stupid plea to New Yorkers to not buy cars, which we think is Bill de Blasio's plan to stop the mass exodus out of New York City. Because if you have no car, you can't leave, right? And finally, we have the amazing story of Beth Ann McLaughlin, who confessed that tweets from a professor detailing her fight with COVID-19 was actually a hoax that she created. Yep, it's a COVID catfish. McLaughlin created a female Native American professor who fled the South because of their oppression of queer folk, gave her the Rona, blamed Arizona State for making her lecture in large crowds of people, and then killed her off. And did we mention she's a neuroscientist? This is like the woke bonanza of buffoonery. It has everything. Way to give science skeptics just the ammunition they needed, Beth Ann. Oh, and a word of advice.
Stop it. Get some help.
But ultimately, we went with these two nominees both for their national notoriety and their high-profile dumbassery. We're talking about Oprah WInfrey and Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono. Like what you see so far? Go ahead and smash that thumbs up button. Also, leave us a comment and tell us what you're thinking. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another show. Earning a nomination this week is Oprah Winfrey. During her Apple TV show, Winfrey spoke with her white guests and said that their whiteness makes them automatically racist.
White people, there are white people who are not as powerful as the system of white people, the caste system that's been put in place, but they still, no matter where they are on the rung or the ladder of success, they still have their whiteness.
And wouldn't you know it, Oprah's white guests nodded in agreement and admitted that they are indeed racist, not because of what they think, but because that's how they were born.
It's impossible to just not be racist. I realized that I either was a racist or an anti-racist.
Exposing myself even more, like put my body where black bodies are.
Yes.
How do we unearth and continue to surface these unconscious biases that we as white people have?
You still have your whiteness. That's what the term white privilege is. It means that whiteness still gives you an advantage no matter what. You say you become woke during this period and realize in that awakening that you are racist.
And as Oprah's co-host, former NFL player Emmanuel Ancho says, "Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to be white people."
If you are not careful, your children will live their whole life white. And at 26, 27, they'll end up being a part of the problem because you just let them and allowed them to live a completely white, sheltered, and cultureless life.
Isn't it amazing how we're seeing the definition of racism changing right before our very eyes? And forget about white privilege and what it used to mean. Now the trailer parks are literally teeming with it.
I got a lot of backlash when I brought up white privilege. Because some people are like, wait a second, I'm a poor white person. Your parents were doctors. How can you say I'm privileged? White privilege isn't saying your life hasn't been hard. White privilege is just saying your skin color, it hasn't attributed to the difficulty of your life.
Yep, welcome to Oprah's new book club, folks, where we judge each book only by their cover. You see, this is exactly what America needs right now, right? A black female billionaire media mogul telling white people how horribly racist they are just by being born white. I'm amazed how in such a racist system, Oprah Winfrey was able to not only earn a decent living, but was able to raise herself up to becoming not only rich AF, but an enduring influence on pop culture for well over a generation. It's truly astounding that in such a racist world, Oprah Winfrey helped fellow black person Barack Obama get elected in a white majority country to the highest office in the world twice, despite racism being baked into white people DNA. Ted Cruz was right about Oprah's comments, folks. This conversation is utter BS. It's condescension of the worst form, but sadly it's also a missed opportunity for an actual serious discussion of racial relations in America. Hey, don't forget that Buffoon of the Week is all over social media, so when you're online, make sure you like us on Facebook, you follow us on the Twitters, and go on over to Instagram and like us there too. But the most important thing you have to do is remember to subscribe right here on YouTube. Now it's time for an example of how not to come at someone during a political debate, featuring one of this week's nominees, Hawaii Senator Mazie Hirono. Hirono thought it would be a good idea to take on Senator Ted Cruz during a Senate committee hearing with typical Democrat tactics. Warning: what you are about to see is an epic takedown of a political hack that may trigger the faint at heart, as it contains the use of facts to combat narratives. Viewer discretion is advised. First, we'll let Senator Cruz set the stage for this hearing.
Americans rightly and peaceably assembled to demand justice. Justice for every American, regardless of skin color. The fact is, the people who took the streets because their hearts cried out for justice have become overshadowed by rioters and looters and those who cynically exploit the protest for their own evil ends. This shouldn't be complicated. Peaceful protests must be protected. Riots must be stopped. More and more, we're seeing signs that a significant portion of this violence, of this rioting, is not random, it's not spontaneous. Rather, it is coordinated and inspired by leftist, anarchist groups like Antifa.
And it was right then that you knew that Hirono was going to be triggered. For her opening remarks, she decided not to talk about political violence, but in typical progressive fashion, she immediately targeted law enforcement.
Nobody is condoning violence against anyone, by anyone. This hearing is titled, quote, "The Right of the People Peaceably to Assemble, Protecting Speech by Stopping Anarchist Violence," end quote. But the hearing we should be having is one called "The Right of the People Peaceably to Assemble Without Being Beaten Up by Unidentifiable Federal Agents." On July 4th, unidentified federal agents arrived in Portland, outfitted as if for war, wearing camouflage and heavy gear. To justify this unnecessary deployment of federal officers, President Trump and his administration have repeatedly portrayed Portland protesters as violent anarchists and members of Antifa. We also saw unidentified federal forces grab peaceful protesters off the street and force them into unmarked vans. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would like to show a video that highlights the excessive use of force by federal agents in Portland.
Of course, Senator Cruz was not fooled by Hirono's antics and made sure to let her know it.
Note at the end of that video that is narrated, it says, describes law enforcement officers as unidentified, while the video shows them with the words police in bright yellow all caps across their chest. So that is a curious way to describe a law enforcement officer as unidentified. I would also note that the ranking member said nobody is condoning the violence and rioting, and yet nowhere in the opening remarks was even one word condemning it, condemning the assaults, condemning the 277 injuries that federal law enforcement officers have suffered at the hands of those rioters. Not a word.
Eventually, the constant pressure of Senator Cruz to get Mazie Hirono to acknowledge fact led to her throwing a temper tantrum.
So all I can say is, look, we should all join hands and denouncing and whatever words you want to use. So I hope this is the end of this hearing, Mr. Chairman, and that we don't have to listen to any more of your rhetorical speeches. Thank you very much. I'm leaving.
Well, I appreciate the, as always, kind and uplifting words of Senator Hirono. And I would also note that throughout her remarks, she still did not say a negative word about Antifa, nor has any Democrat here. They instead engage in a political game where they depend. You're welcome to say something negative about Antifa right now.
I think that I've covered the subject quite well. You are not listening.
Okay, she declined to speak, so that is the position of the Democratic Party. I would note also that of the 7 Democratic senators who spoke, not a one of them apologized for or denounced multiple Democrats calling law enforcement officers Nazis, stormtroopers, and Gestapo. To be fair, I have not heard the word Nazi, but stormtrooper was Nancy Pelosi and Gestapo was another Democratic leader.
Hirono's abrupt exit surprised the invited witnesses, including constitutional law professor Jonathan Turley, who expressed on social media how unusual Hirono's behavior was. Why is it so hard for Mazie Hirono to admit the truth? That the right to peaceably protest is different than efforts by rioters and Antifa to cause mayhem, violence, and destruction. Say their names, Senator Hirono. Look at the blatant inaccuracies that Hirono attempted to put over. Unidentified agents that just happen to have the word police on their uniform. Are you kidding me? Avoiding any condemnation of Antifa like the plague? And storming out in a huff? This is agenda gymnastics. Hirono cares more about votes in the fall than people getting hurt in the summer. All Hirono has are her narratives, which are stories told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, ultimately signifying nothing. And her storming out was the last refuge of a political hack. And with that, the fate of 2 more nominees are in your hands. But which one gets your vote? The time for choosing is now, America. Tell us who you got for this week's Buffoon of the Week. So now that you've watched the whole video, you can go check out our new website, buffoonoftheweek.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you can come back next week where we'll have 2 more nominees for you, but only one can be Buffoon of the Week.